everyone, it's Rebecca from Holy Rustic, and I'm here today to do the pineapple painting tutorial. I need to apologize because this is not our usual setup for videos, so hopefully y'all are able to see and nothing falls off. Alright, so there's a couple things that you're going to want to do before you start watching the whole video. First of all, you want to paint the bottom part of your pineapple white, because the yellow really doesn't cover the wood very well, and if you put white underneath it, the yellow shows up a lot better. So I went ahead and did that and let it dry so you don't have to watch me do that. Another thing you'll do on your own is paint your letter. So you can paint your letter any color you want, and then at the end we'll attach it. Alright, in your kit you have several different color paints, 2 different yellows, a white, a green, and a brown. So first we're going to start with the green. So I'm just going to go ahead and put some of this paint out here on this plate. Won't need a whole lot. The green covers pretty well. I'm going to take a big brush and I'm just going to start brushing that on. Now our door hangers are laser cut, so they have that burned edge on them. You do not have to paint the edges if you like the way that looks. I always underestimate my paint. It doesn't matter how many times I've done these door hangers. So I'm not going to paint the edges. It is a much more tedious process to try to cover that laser burned edge. So today I'm just going to focus on the top. So the top of your pineapple, there's grooves on each side. You just want to kind of connect those grooves. So use those grooves here and here to guide your paint. The divider between the bottom and the top of the pineapple. So that's covered pretty good. I'm going to do an extra step, and you really don't have to do this. This is just something that I like to do so that it has a little more color. And you didn't get this in your kit, so I have a little bit of black. I'm going to put a little bit of black in this dark green. You could also put a little bit of white and go a little bit lighter. And this is just going to give it a little bit of contrast. So I'm just making a little bit of a darker green, and again you could do this with white and make a lighter green. But while my paint's still wet, what I'm going to do is take this same brush with that darker paint, and I'm going to kind of brush lightly up each of these branches. I don't know what you would call them, but I'm brushing that darker color here, and now I'm going to go back over it and kind of smooth it in. And I'm not pushing my brush down very hard at all. Might have got too much here. It's really dark. Just kind of not completely mixing it, but just kind of blending it in. And again, I'm barely touching my brush, just kind of smoothing that darker color out. You don't want it to look like stripes. Just gives a little depth when you put a different color, run it through. Alright. See, so it's not just one solid color, it's got a little bit of contrast there. To me, it just looks a little less boring. But it's up to you. You do not have to do that. This is completely optional. Okay. Alright, so we're done with the top part. And now we're going to work on the actual pineapple. So what you want first is your yellow. Just the yellow, not the gold. And I'm just going to squirt this directly onto the door hanger. I know I'm going to need a lot of it. Hopefully I have enough. And then again, I'm going to take a big brush and I'm going to smooth that out. Now we won't have to do several coats because we have the white paint on the bottom. Look how bright that is. Making sure I didn't use bright yellow. We're going to be putting several colors on top of this, so it's not going to be near as bright as it looks right now. I'm going to flip this around. I'm left-handed, so it's easier for me to do it like this. And we are going to be adding a bow right here. So that line doesn't matter a whole lot. You're going to cover it anyways. Some gloopy paint in my bottle there. Okay, so now we just want all this to dry really good so that we can go through and add our lines. Get some dripped on the sides here. If you have a hair dryer, it'd be a good time to dry your pineapple with the hair dryer. Apparently my kids broke mine and I'm not in the studio, so I won't be hair drying mine. I do have a heater going though because I'm freezing today for some reason. But it won't reach, so. Alright. It's also a good time to paint your letter. So while you're waiting on that to dry, you could go over to your letter and paint that. So from here on out, you'll need, let's see, you'll need your King's Gold, your nutmeg brown, and white paint to finish the pineapple. You're also going to need a ruler and a pencil, which I didn't think I had, but luckily I do. I don't have a ruler. Again, I don't know what my kids have done with my ruler, but I do have a straight piece of wood, so I'm going to use that. And then, while this is drying, I guess we could go ahead and make the ribbon. So I'll move this over. Sleepy. Alright, and I am waiting on more burlap ribbon to show up. All my shipments are very delayed, so I don't have all the pieces, but I'm going to show you how to do yours. Alright, so you should have 3 pieces of this burlap ribbon that are different lengths. So you'll have one that's pretty long, and then you'll have one that's medium, and then you'll have a really small one. So what you'll want to do is take the biggest one first, and you're going to fold it over until you get a length that you like. So it's probably going to be about this big, and you just want to make sure that when you put it on your pineapple, it's going to cover the section that you want it to cover. So make sure it's big enough, because this is your bottom piece. So what I like to do, if you have a stapler, you can staple this right here to hold it together. So you could staple both of these sides. And basically, you're just gonna you'll just pinch that together. So you have a short piece of twine, and you're gonna use your twine to hold it. So you can lay your twine flat like this, and then you can put your folded piece of burlap here. I'm trying to think if I can, I don't know if I can take it off of this one or not. No, it's already glued down. I can't get it off there. Okay, but what you're gonna do then is take your middle section, fold it over. You can staple it if you want, lay it on top like this one is here. So this is my middle piece. And then you're going to fold the little one over, and you can staple it if you can get a staple in there. Otherwise, just kind of pinch it together, and so you'll lay it on top. So you'll have 3 layers here. And then once you get your 3 layers, you're just gonna fold them and pinch them like this. And then you'll take your twine and you'll tie it. And so you'll just tie it right in the middle around all 3 pieces. Okay, I just don't have any extra burlap ribbon to do that, and then it'll look like this. Okay, so this piece right here, I guess I should clarify, don't tie it around all 3 pieces. You're gonna stick this in the top like this. I'll show you on this one. So you'll wrap it around those bottom 2 layers like this, and then stick this inside that top piece. You can stick it in both ways like that, and then wrap it around the back of the 3 pieces and tie underneath here. Okay, so then you'll have it tied in the back. You'll have all 3 pieces attached, and then when you get ready to glue it on your door hanger, that'll be on the back. Okay, so hopefully that wasn't confusing. Having a hard time getting supplies right now with everything closed. All right. Okay, I think it's dry enough for us to go ahead and put our lines on for the pineapple sections. So you'll use a ruler, which I didn't have. So I have this piece of wood, and it is wider than a ruler. So hopefully that doesn't mess me up. But basically what I do when I have a ruler, I'm going to show you, is I put the edge of the ruler right on the edge of the pineapple, and you want it at kind of an angle. So not straight up and down. You want to angle it. And then I'm going to take my pencil, and I'm going to just draw a line like that. Okay, so with the ruler, it's really the perfect width for you to then lay that same edge of the ruler onto that line that you just drew, and then draw another line here on the other side here. Okay, and then you pick it up, lay the ruler on that line again, on this last line that you drew, and draw a new line, and you just do that all the way up your pineapple. And you don't want to do it any smaller than the width of a ruler, because you can be painting all day. Alright, so this is going to leave me with a little section here at the top, but I think it'll be alright. I might do a little section down here just to keep it even. Alright, so that gives me 2 little parts. Alright, so then we're going to rotate this around, and we're going to do the same thing going the opposite direction. So I'm going to lay it at an angle across the other way, and draw that line. And then line up the side of your ruler with that line. And just keep doing that all the way up the pineapple. Alright, so because I'm using wood and not a ruler, I have pretty big pineapple sections. Yours should be smaller than that. Alright, so now we have kind of a grid for our little sections here. So the next color that we're going to use is the King's Gold. And this is just going to give it a contrast, kind of like the two greens did on the top of the pineapple. I'm going to use a much smaller brush to do this. And hopefully you're able to see. Alright, so I'm going to dip my brush in this King's Gold here. And what I'm going to do is, on each of these squares here, on one side, I'm going to kind of fill in some of this King's Gold. So I'll start with one of the big ones so that it's easier to see. But I'm just going to kind of brush this King's Gold to the corner of one side of the triangle and then come down the other side. And I'm just kind of tapping my paintbrush here. So I don't necessarily want it to be a straight line. But I'm only going to do that in one side of the rectangle. And right here from the corner, I'm going to make sure it comes out a little farther. So see, I have this that comes out a little farther into the triangle and then up two sides of that rectangle. Okay, so just like that. And we're going to do that in each one of these squares on half of the square with the gold. Now some of these little the half squares here, we're going to do the same thing. You just won't be able to go as far up the square here. So this is the more tedious part of this project. Basically, I'm bringing the gold out the length of this brush. So you can see what I mean. If you were to do little bitty tiny squares, like smaller than a ruler, you'd be painting a while. Because we're going to do several colors like this in each one of these squares. And the good thing about this is you really don't have to worry about it being perfect because we're just putting so much color on it. You're going to hide any flaws that there are. kind of get in the zone here. There's no real right or wrong here. You just don't want to make sure you cover your whole square. Okay, so once you have the gold on there, we're going to switch over to the nutmeg brown. And you're going to want a smaller brush than what you just used. So I'm going to use a small flat brush like this. And then hopefully some of our areas are dry. So once that gold dries, we're going to take the brown and we're going to go over a little bit, but we're not going to completely cover all of it. I'm just going to dip in my brown, and then I'm going to do right along the lines, like the pencil marks. I'm going to kind of dab my brush right on the lines to give it kind of a bristle look like that. So right there on the pencil lines that we made, this will cover those up. We're just going to do it on all of them. Just kind of dabbing that brush all across the lines. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. There's so many colors on this. Nobody would know if you messed it up. This is definitely where the time is in the pineapple. A little tedious, but it's worth it. It looks really good when it's finished. Alright, so all those pencil marks are covered now. We have the pineapple section starting to look really good. There's just one more thing that we have to do, and that's with our white paint. So, go ahead and get some more white. And then you want to brush the same size as you used for the brown. You can just rinse that one out and reuse it. And basically we're going to do the same thing, but on the opposite side of the triangle. So here, like right here, we have our King's Gold in the, I have it on the right side of the triangle. Now I'm going to go on both of those empty sides of the rectangle, sorry. And I'm going to dab my white on there just like we did with the brown. So everywhere there's not, where we haven't dabbed any paint, we're going to go along basically the back side of all of the brown lines and dab it like that. This is still wet, trying not to get all over my clothes. I'm a messy painter. I'm also an impatient painter, which is why I have brown now in the middle of this. Ideally, you probably should let the brown dry all the way before moving on. Yeah, make sure to join the craft crew on Facebook and share your pictures of your finished crafts. We love to see those. So some of these that are on the sides that have kind of the half why do I keep saying triangles? Squares. Make sure you don't forget about those. You want to kind of imagine the full square and fill in as needed. Go back and try to touch up this spot where I dropped the brown. Way too much yellow. Oh, and I missed a white spot too. I got all my spots done. And paint on the floor. Alright, so like I said, this isn't my normal video setup, so it's kind of hard for you to see. But should look something like that. You might have more squares than I do. The only thing left to do now, once everything dries, is attach your bow. You can use hot glue if you have it. You can just tie your twine around the whole door hanger, or you can use the E6000 if you want. That came in your craft kit, but it does take a while for it to set. So if you're going to do that, you probably want to glue the back of the ribbon, push it down, and then take a chip clip or something and kind of clamp it onto the door hanger so that it stays flat for a couple hours until that glue sets. Now, after you paint your letter, you're going to use the E6000 to put it right in the center of your pineapple. And I don't have a letter that's not attached, but I'm going to show you what I do. So with the E6000, a little glue goes a long way. You don't want to use a lot of the glue, and you want to keep it away from the edges as much as possible. If you get it right on the edges in thick globs and then you push it down on your pineapple, you're going to have glue seep out the sides of your wood letter and you're not going to be able to get it off. So what I do, I use these paint palette knives and I put a little bit of the glue on the edge, and you can use a butter knife. If you don't have this, you can just use a butter knife to spread it. So basically I put a little bit on there. I'll use this wood just to show you. And then on the thickest parts of your letter, you're going to take your butter knife or whatever, if you do it that way, and you're just going to kind of spread it like you would peanut butter. You just want to spread it out, because the less thick glue spots you have on the back of your letter, the better it is, because otherwise it'll squeeze out the sides. So you just kind of spread it on the thickest parts of your letter, and then kind of hold it where you want it. When you think you have it centered, then you can just drop it and kind of press it down a little bit. Now this glue will hold very well, but not for a couple hours. So you want to give it a couple hours to set before you hold your door hanger upright. So leave it flat for a couple hours after you glue your letter. Okay. So when you're done, you should have pineapple, finished pineapple. I just took the twine. You should have a second piece of twine, and I just, depending on how you want it to hang on your door, you can cut it down and make it shorter, or you can leave it long. And then I just use hot glue to glue the bottom pieces of that twine where I wanted it to hang. You just want to make sure you get it in the center, so kind of hold it up, make sure it's not going to hang lopsided after you glue it on there. So anyways, if y'all have any questions, you can contact us through the Craft Crew on Facebook or just our regular Facebook page. We'll be happy to help you out. Thank you all for supporting our business and ordering our craft kits. We really appreciate it. And make sure you share your finished photos with us. Have a great day. Thanks.